Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, your go-to source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We hope you tune in often for all things people management, organizational development and change, organizational leadership, and social impact related. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI Podcast episode, I share my recent Forbes article, The Key to Creating a Growth Culture and Producing Exceptional Results. Welcome back to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Today, I'm going to share my recent Forbes article, The Key to Creating a Growth Culture and Producing Exceptional Results. When leaders help their people to feel supported, provide them with the resources they need, and focus first on growth and continual learning, employees will tap into their intrinsic motivations and find more meaning and purpose in their work. Years ago, I found myself in a toxic organization with toxic, and they didn't have a clue. I was a newly minted graduate, master's degree in hand, and a prestigious management trainee position in a large corporation. I had the opportunity to spend time in each operational and functional area of the organization before taking over leadership of my own team. Initially, I was very excited for this new role. It was challenging, and I was learning new things every day. Furthermore, I was developing relationships with key individuals throughout the organization, and I figured this would bear fruit later as I worked to build my young career at this organization. Relatively quickly in my rotations, I experienced many dysfunctional behaviors in the various divisions and teams in which I worked. While the organization prided itself on fostering what it deemed to be a high-performance work culture, what I actually witnessed was extremely unhealthy and disruptive competition. Teams undermining each other to make themselves look better, micromanaging and over-the-top employee monitoring to drive efficiency, and even full-fledged employee exploitation to achieve goals at all costs. All of this was done in the name of accountability and results, but as performance dipped, the company's leadership put more and more blame on the lazy and disengaged employees, and it became a rather predictable downward spiral. Despite the organization's intentions to drive higher performance and results, which is a good goal, what its leadership actually created was a fear-based culture that led to protectionism, lower risk-taking and innovation, higher employee burnout and turnover, and ultimately poorer performance. I chose not to stick around, one of the easiest professional choices I ever made. Here's how other companies can avoid that same fate. Start with a growth culture, not a performance culture. In a Harvard Business Review article on creating growth culture, author Tony Schwartz argues that counterintuitively, building a culture focused on performance may not be the best, healthiest, or most sustainable way to fuel results. Instead, it may be more effective to focus on creating a culture of growth. He then outlines 4 organizational elements required to develop a growth culture that produces results: a safe environment, continuous learning, manageable experiments, and continuous feedback. In essence, he is arguing for an organization that rewards appropriate risk-taking to drive innovation, and one in which everyone is always coaching and learning from each other. What the most successful organizational leaders have long understood is that focusing on performance first often results in employees feeling overwhelmed, unsupported, and even exploited. This in turn leads to worse individual, team, and organizational outcomes, not better. While performance-based pressure can produce some better results in the short term, these fear-based short-term bursts of increased productivity are not sustainable, and over time, employees will disengage and performance will decline. On the flip side, when leaders help their people to feel supported and empowered and provide them with the resources they need to succeed, focusing first on growth and continual learning, employees will tap into their intrinsic motivations, find more meaning and purpose in their work, be more engaged and more committed to the organization, and be more likely to sustainably thrive and produce exceptional results. Lead with a growth mindset. I've previously discussed the importance of leading with a growth mindset. When we adopt a growth mindset in our own leadership style and consistently model a growth approach when working with our people, we can create a safe place for everyone to expose and address their vulnerabilities. After all, we all have gaps in our understanding, skills, and capabilities. Sometimes we don't openly address those gaps at work if we're afraid of being found out or exposed. This can lead to many unhealthy workplace behaviors, such as information hoarding or dysfunctional competition, which ultimately undermine organizational performance. However, with a growth approach consistently modeled by organizational leadership, we begin to see our gaps and limitations as developmental opportunities, rather than obstacles to be avoided. As we address those areas, work collaboratively across functional silos, and see our work as iterative experimentation to further learn and grow, we will collectively drive greater, more sustainable personal and organizational success. Remember the 4 elements. While perhaps counterintuitive, creating an organizational culture of growth first is the key to helping our people maximize their performance potential. We need to create an organizational culture where our people feel it is safe to be vulnerable and take appropriate risks, where everyone is committed to continuous learning and personal and team development, where we regularly experiment, falling forward and failing fast, and where continuous feedback loops are embedded throughout the organization, reinforcing our continuous learning and growth culture. When organizational leaders focus on these 4 elements, coupled with an inward commitment to provide a consistent example of growth mindset, our people will thrive, and we will create a sustainable growth culture that will lead to far greater innovation, performance, and results than we could ever hope to accomplish by focusing just on performance and results alone. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. As I shared my recent Forbes article, I hope this was helpful and informative for you. And as always, I hope you all have a great week, that you can stay healthy and safe, and that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. We are excited about the launch of HCI's new magazine, Human Capital Leadership. Human Capital Leadership is a free, interactive e-magazine designed to help individuals, leaders, and organizations find innovative approaches to maximize their human capital potential. We will be publishing issues quarterly in August, November, February, and May. Check out the first issue and let us know what you think. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.